All right, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Lake Forest City Council of February 2nd, 2016. I think you'll see all members are present. So that leads us to the invocation. Pastor Dave Arnold from my church, Saddleback Church, Lake Forest.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It's a privilege for me to pray this invocation this evening and for the City Council meeting. The Bible tells us that it's our responsibility to pray for our leaders. The Apostle Paul wrote in 1 Timothy, I urge, first of all, that requests, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for everyone, for kings, and for those in authority, that may we live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and hope. Romans 13, he says, everyone must submit themselves to authority, and there is no authority except that which God has established. So please join me in prayer. Father God, you instructed us to pray for our leaders as they serve you under authority. Tonight I lift up our city council and thank you for a city that allows the freedom to pray. Thank you, Lord, for each of these men and for their unselfish service to our community. You taught us in 1 Corinthians, I appeal to you, brothers, in the name of Lord Jesus Christ, that you all agree with one another, so that there may be no divisions among you, and that you may be perfectly united in mind and thought. And in Matthew 5, you further stated, Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. Please bless Mayor Andrew Hamilton, Mayor Pro Tem Scott Voights, Councilman Dr. Jim Gardner, Council Member Adam Nick, Council Member Dwight Robinson, with discretion, foresight, and understanding in making decisions that are pleasing to you. Give each of our councilmen the courage to do the right thing, even when it may be unpopular. Protect every member of the city staff from harm. Bless and protect their families. Enable them to carry out their duties with humility towards you and towards others. Strengthen their endurance and stamina while binding their hearts towards each other. Protect them and continue to richly bless the citizens and city of Lake Forest. In the powerful name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. Thank you.
So that leads us to the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Robinson.
If you'll rise and join me in reciting the pledge. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Which leads us to presentations. I'll entertain motions.
Move presentations.
Second.
Council members, please vote.
That motion passes unanimously. Agenda item number 1, annual presentation by the Orange County Human Relations Council, submitted by City Clerk. And I'd like to call up Letitia Mata and Violet Stewart from the Orange County Human Relations Council.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and community members. Thank you for having us here this evening. Tonight, we'd like to make a report on our not-for-profit organization of Orange County Human Relations and all the activity that we've done here in your beautiful city. We believe that all people have a right to live free from discrimination and violence, so we provide programs to create safe, respectful communities. In the like mass murders of San Bernardino, with mourning for the victims and the anger and the fear that follows it, it's also important that we are ever so invested in relationship building among our increasing diverse residents. With that understanding, there could be a foundation for maintaining a sense of community in our city rather than descending into having problems. Orange County Human Relations partners with the different cities to manage some of these challenging issues. And we're delighted today to be able to report that through our mediation programs, we were able to mediate 28 cases, as well as 6 family mediations in the community or courts where one of the parties was the residents of the city of Lake Forest. In collaboration with the Lake Forest Police, we have no hate crimes, or actually we have documented 2 hate crimes, and we facilitated 1 police community reconciliation case in Lake Forest. We sought to build a sense of community with Lake Forest residents and staff through hate crime victim support. And over the past 24 years, Orange County Human Relations partnered with our cities to strategically address these many conflicts. So if we could please thank the council and recognize Mayor Hamilton for recognizing the need to have human relations in their city, we'd like to present you with a certificate this evening. And the certificate reads, for its outstanding commitment to fostering mutual understanding among residents and eliminating prejudice, intolerance, and discrimination in order to make Orange County a better place for all people to live, work, and do business.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Agenda item 2, introduction of new employee, David Pina, engineering technician, submitted by Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'm pleased to introduce David. Come on up. David Pina. David is our newest addition. He is our engineering technician. In that capacity, David performs all the duties associated with issuing permits to the development community, transportation permits, parking permits. He was out last Saturday in the Bennett Ranch area passing out the parking permits, which the council recently adopted. David comes to us through Cal State Fullerton as a recent graduate in civil engineering. He also spent 1 year as an intern in a nearby city. He's an avid basketball player and an Orange County native, and this is David Pina.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is David Pina. I am the new engineering tech. I just wanted to say it's truly a blessing to be able to have this opportunity to serve the city of Lake Forest, the community, and its residents, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you very much, and the blessing's all ours. Welcome. All right, that brings us to the report from the student liaison from El Toro High School, Kaya McCullough.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kaya McCullough here, reporting to you all the fun things El Toro has coming up. This week begins our countdown to our annual winter formal dance, an electrifying formal based on the movie Grease. Our Spirit Week leading up to the dance began today, where students wore black and white for Racer Day. Tomorrow is Summer Lovin' Day, where students will wear beach attire. Thursday marks our Sock Hop Day, where the school will be full of students wearing crazy socks. Finally, Friday marks the finale to our Spirit Week with a Greaser Day, where students will wear 50s attire and everything relating to the movie Grease. The very next day, students will be racing over to K1 Speed to dance and go-kart the night away. I cannot wait to tell you how this dance goes. Charger Athletics has had a great winter season thus far, and as it comes to a close, our teams are all hoping to qualify for CIF. Girls soccer has their annual senior night this Thursday, where all the seniors on varsity will be honored before the game against San Juan Hills. Wednesday will finish off the 2016 league season against rivals Trabuco Hills. Actually, I just got back from playing a girls' soccer game, and we just beat Tesoro 3-0 in league, so now we are in first. Girls water polo defeated San Clemente on Saturday 9-5 in a very important league victory. Their season has 3 more league games, including tonight against Tesoro, as well as the Irvine Varsity Tournament and the Newport Harbor Tournament. Girls basketball has 4 more league games, including tonight's senior night against Mission Viejo at 7 p.m. This past Saturday night, our Lady Charger basketball team defeated Capo Valley in a stunning 57-27 victory. Speaking of basketball, our boys team had an incredible overtime victory against Dana Hills last Friday. Their season is quickly coming to a close, with only a few games remaining left in league play, including one final home game Tuesday, February 9th against Elisa Nogale High School. Boys soccer season is also coming to a close, with 3 more league games, including Capo Valley this Friday at Capo Valley, and their senior night next Friday against San Clemente. Finally, our ETHS wrestling has advanced 4 wrestlers into CIF. We are very proud of Moises Vasquez, Tom Prestrito, Brandon Moreno, and Anthony Nixon, and wish them the best of luck in CIF. That's all for today. Have a great rest of your evening, and as always, go Chargers.
Congratulations on your soccer win.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you very much. All right, up next is the public comments. At this time, any member of the public can address the City Council on items not on the agenda. If you fill out a little form and give it to our City Clerk, she'll know your name and be able to call your name when you come up. We have a little system of lights. When you've got green, you're doing good. When it turns yellow, you got 30 seconds. And then red, a little buzzer comes on, and that means time's up. And I think that's all. Do we have any public speakers?
Tim Odell, followed by Mary Axelrod.
Welcome.
I just wanted to come out and give you guys my support. I think Robinson, Hamilton, and Voights, I've all voted for you guys, and I like pretty much what you guys have done here for the council, and I'm really not a big fan of what's going on out here in the community with this recall effort. You guys have done not the greatest job in some cases. You voted the wrong way that I would not vote, but I go to bed knowing that you guys are pretty good stewards of the city. So I'm pretty cool with that. We've got a recall effort going on here that is, it's off base on two counts. First off, usually I thought recalls were used for people that were in office that did something really bad. They cooked the books, they raided the treasury, they enriched themselves, they did something that we need to get rid of. They've gotten arrested in the middle of the night for stealing rival campaign signs, been cuffed, thrown in jail.
Hey.
So that's what a recall usually is for, those kind of individuals. The other thing is, too, it's based off of a lot of rumors and just bully pulpit stuff from Mr. Gardner here, who likes to hide behind his blog and pen and just badmouth people to no end and bully them and just, whatever you say, these guys are not liars. They're not criminals. Satan didn't bring them down here to kill every cat and dog in the whole community, okay? You may not like what they did by policy, but they're not the characterizations that you guys make, okay? And that's all I have to say. I'm in support of you guys. I'm not a big fan of the recall effort. I hope it fails. I'm sure it will fail. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Mary Axelrod, followed by Randy Johnson.
I just want to let everyone know that let's all be respectful of each speaker. Let's not boo. Let's not clap. It sometimes can be very intimidating for public speakers to come up and speak. And so for us as a community to encourage people to speak, let's all be respectful. Let's limit our booing and hissing and whatever else we might be tempted to do. Go ahead.
Mary Axelrod from Lake Forest.
Welcome.
First of all, a recall under the Constitution is under the First Amendment. It's a way to redress grievances, and it can be for any reason whatsoever. It doesn't have to be because somebody did something horribly wrong. like killed somebody. But what I'm here to do is to talk about a concern I'm having, and it's a big concern. And a lot of residents have the same concern too. And that's the animal pound of Orange County. I want to be the voice for the animals because they don't really have a voice. They can't come up to the pulpit and say what's on their mind. They're just getting killed. There's 10,000 of them that are getting killed every year, and some of those are from Lake Forest, too. I don't know if it's a big concern of yours, but it is a big concern. Hamilton, Robinson, Voights, y'all voted to keep the Orange County pound going, and I don't understand why. I understand that Adam Nick did too, but he tried to redo his vote, and you wouldn't let him because you said something like it wouldn't matter anyway. But on the record, he wanted to recant his vote. So it's just the three of you, basically, that are voting against that. And I want to make it really clear too that you three took it upon yourself, even after residents, myself and other residents, we don't want the OC pound. We don't want it. We told you that. We don't want it. But yet, you took it upon yourself to vote for it for some reason. You wouldn't even hear any kind of alternatives. You wouldn't even hear. What would have been the harm in just hearing about it? And don't tell me about your staff. Okay, they make good salaries. It's public knowledge. They make good salaries. They can do this. They probably want to do this. They could find alternatives. It sounds kind of weird to me, but anyway, for that reason, you're being recalled. It's nothing, or you're being called to recall. It's nothing personal, but it is a right that we have to do, and that's what we're doing. This isn't Adam Nick's recall. This is the people of Lake Forest. So if you're tempted to put out a mailer with someone is nuts with a Z at the end, the Lake Forest residents are nuts because we're all, including myself, we want this recall for that, and this is one of the reasons why. There are several other items, but that's one of the reasons why. I wanted to read a couple of lines from this letter, but I guess I don't have time.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Randy Johnson, followed by Heiko Peschel.
Just for your information, Mary Jo, later tonight I'll be offering a proposal as an alternative to using the Orange County shelter.
Good evening, Council. Randy Johnson from Lake Forest. That was a good segue for me, Councilman Gardner. I appreciate it. I'm here tonight to talk about the Lake Forest Animal Network. I became aware of this through a PowerPoint presentation that Mr. Gardner, or Councilman Gardner, put together, and I was very, very impressed at watching this PowerPoint presentation because it talks about a real viable alternative to the Orange County shelter that apparently we've already bought into, and that we're willing to give the County of Orange and Orange County Animal Care upwards of $1 million of our taxpayers' money in order to buy into this shelter that's going to be 30 minutes away from Lake Forest. Well, this Lake Forest Animal Network is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us because it keeps everything local. Okay, and most unbiased observers know that the care and services through Orange County Animal Care has just plain been awful, and everyone has to admit that. Go read the 5 grand jury reports, go read the performance auditor report. Everybody with any common sense understands this. Now, under the Lake Forest Animal Network, we wouldn't have to give the $1 million to the County of Orange. We could use our own local businesses here in Lake Forest in order to provide the care and the services that our animals need, and it would provide them with more humane treatment. Okay? The kill rate wouldn't be nearly as high as what it is with Orange County Animal Care. We would use our own veterinarians here in town. We would use retail pet stores. We would use local rescue groups. Okay? We can incorporate all this in. We could have our own little network here in Lake Forest, and we could eliminate the Orange County Animal Shelter altogether. I mean, If I had a tail, I'd wag it. This is exactly what the doctor ordered. This is exactly what the doctor ordered for Lake Forest, and it's something that we could take a look at. I don't think that anything should be set in stone with regard to Orange County and the budget. Look at Councilman Gardner's numbers on the budget. He does two different alternatives: one for an expected budget and one worst scenario. And under the expected budget, there would be a surplus of $70,000. And under the worst scenario, we would pay about $272,000, I think, in general fund money. That's less than what we're paying right now to Orange County Animal Care for the services they provide. So, please, listen seriously to him tonight when he describes this. Keep an open mind, and let's have a discussion about it. We still have some time left, before the clock runs out, and we have to stick with the animal shelter. Laguna Hills has found an alternative. Rancho Santa Margarita, San Juan Capistrano, okay? Come on. Let's not be the odd guy out here and ruin it for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And I forgot to say welcome.
Heiko Peschel, followed by Bob Holtzclaw.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Long time no talk to, at least figuratively speaking. Heiko Peschel, Foothill Ranch. Two things, traffic and schools. Having spoken to one of your staff members earlier, there at the moment there does not simply seem to be any land planned anywhere in Foothill Ranch for any additional schools. When the City Council in its wisdom decided to replace businesses with residences and then added some more residences, did they manage to talk to our local school district about adding a school? Because right now we have one elementary school in the northern part of Lake Forest. We do not have any intermediate schools. We do not have any high schools anywhere in our part of the world. It would be nice if we took care of our future children by providing them with a little education. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Bob Holtzclaw, followed by Tracy Tingley.
Welcome.
Bob Holtzclaw, resident of Lake Forest. First, I'd like to talk about the Zika virus, first in Brazil, Mexico, and Puerto Rico, now in Florida, Texas, and California. Symptoms are joints, aching joints, fever, redness, eye redness. But the most dangerous part is it can affect pregnant women by birth defects. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Now the closer news to home, the recall is going strong. The Snowfest, Hamilton got most signed petitions by the residents just by watching his conduct. Son, you're just not that clever. So I just want to say also that when you brought up the idea that two people took $40,000, but you only mentioned one. Rumor was that you signed the other petition. That's just a rumor. I'm just saying. But the petition is going to happen, and let's just face reality. I suggest you just, quite frankly, resign. It would probably be much easier for the people of Lake Forest. You can use any excuse you want. I've got a better paying job at the county. I want to resign to spare my family from the embarrassment of being recalled, or I just don't have enough time to look in the mirror. If you resign now, you'll save the city itself a lot of money. And nobody will hound you later, I promise. But if we have to go on a special election on this thing, everything is off. So I just hope you do the right thing and look at reality, resign now, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Tracy Tingley, followed by Sherry Anderson.
Good evening. I'm Tracy Tingley from Foothill Ranch. What I wanted to bring up or ask the council is when we come up for public comments, it would be nice if you want to make a comment to what we're saying, comment to what we're saying. last meeting, there were a number of times, or at least 2-3 times, where when people spoke, things were twisted with what they said, and people commented on something completely different than what was actually presented. I know it happened to me, and I just like, if you want to respond on what we're saying, direct it to what we're saying, not some imaginary comment that we actually didn't say. That being said, when I spoke last week, I was talking about the fact that you've been going around town, Mr. Mayor, telling people you've taken zero money from developers, where they've actually funded your PACs, that you've received funding from developers. You twisted my words and then brought up an article in the Orange County Register from the 2012 election. Well, I want to thank you for that, because I actually printed that. And I'm not sure if you read the whole thing, but it's not very pretty to your counterparts, because it also shows that the money went to Dwight Robinson in that election. It talks about all this funding that they gave to Scott Voights. It talks about here, in 2012, Scott Voights accepted $1,000 from Brookfield for his campaign seat on the County GOP Central Committee. It just, numbers after numbers of money that was sent by developers to get people on council seats. The thing I found very interesting is at the end of this article, it says it's actually not in the, I'll read it what it says. The council, July 30th, voted 3-2 to change the zoning and approve the Brookfield project, though the Planning Commission recommended against the project, citing concerns about traffic and the project's proposed density. Exactly what we've been saying here. 2 planning commissioners, Andrew Hamilton and C.J. Burr, supported Brookfield's project. It's like the money comes from the developers, it goes to the council, and now we're overwhelmed with homes, no infrastructure to support it. You might want to read these articles before you bring it up to council, because there's a whole lot more nasty things in here to the 3 of you than there is to Mr. Nix, who you brought up the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Sherry Anderson, followed by Jeffrey McBride.
Sherry Anderson, Lake Forest. I'm requesting again that you vote to look into options of a no-kill animal care option for Lake Forest. Even Mayor Garcetti in Los Angeles has announced he wants Los Angeles to be a no-kill city. I wasn't a fan of his, but it shows his character and his heart. He stated, "Every animal counts. How we treat animals reflects our values as a society. We can and should be judged on how well we treat the most vulnerable among us, including those who can't speak for themselves." Mayor Hamilton talks about the city of kindness, and then votes to continue sending our abandoned, lost, and helpless pets to the county where animals are killed by the thousands. Do you like kittens? They're probably nothing cuter than kittens. They are slaughtered immediately when they get to the Orange County shelter because they might get sick. It makes me literally sick to think about it. I can tell you many of Lake Forest residents feel the same. They gladly signed the petitions. Garcetti is right. We can judge those who voted for this horrific option. What goes on there is immoral. They use the term euthanize. Euthanize is an act or practice of killing an animal who is very sick or injured in order to prevent any more suffering. That's not what's going on there, and you all know that. Channel 7 did a couple of reports last year on the corruption, and a veterinarian was even angry because they just signed his name. They slaughtered, killed pets by the thousands. It's heartbreaking to see. People from throughout the county showed you ways that we can save our pets for a lot less. All through Orange County came to the meeting in October, and you ignored them. You also know about the problems they have with corruption, and you want to give them over $1 million this year. You must have some alternative motive. I ask you, please, in this situation, to do the right thing and vote to look into other options other than supporting the massive killings. We're the only city in South Orange County having or not planning a no-kill shelter. Kindness. Maybe the same construction company supporting the horrible campaign against Councilman Adams could donate to our city. It would sure help us to be a kindly city.
Thank you for your comments.
Jeffrey McBride, followed by Rose Tingle.
I just wanted to acknowledge that Ms. Anderson, Ms. Axelrod, and Mr. Johnson, and Ms. Tingle as well, were part of the team working with me and Councilman Nick on the proposal that we'll talk about later today. So I'd like to thank them all.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Hamilton and members of the City Council, to the City of Lake Forest, to the public here in the gallery tonight, to members of law enforcement, City Manager, City Attorney, and to you, Mayor Pro Tem Scott Voights. My name is Jeffrey McBride, and I am the advocate for the 99%, former resident of Lake Forest. I'm here to talk about two bills that were recently passed into law by our legislature overwhelmingly. Both of them I was proud to support publicly. One is SB 655, and I do hope the City Council will take some time to look into that, because both this particular bill helps to promote public safety, in particular to protect the lives of families and children that reside in residential properties from mold exposure. Now, an occupant of a residential property has the right to proceed with a complaint of mold exposure or potential mold exposure and contact a local authority to investigate. And if that local authority does investigate and finds an exposure of mold, the property owner is now penalized and, of course, can be held liable in a civil suit. So it is a measure designed to help promote and protect the public safety and the public welfare, and I hope that you will look into that a little deeper. I'm not as prepared on that one tonight. The other issue is SB 741. SB 741, I was also proud to publicly support for Senator Jerry Hill this year as the president of Citizens for Criminal Justice Reform here in California. I supported Senator Hill at his request. SB 741 expanded on local law or existing California law that says it's illegal to have a device used for the purpose of eavesdropping on a cellular communication over a cellular network. That's already existing law. But it expanded the law and became law on January 1st, unanimously passed by the California legislature, that it's also now illegal unless publicly posted on a website and approved by the City Council for the sheriff or the city police department to do that as well. So I hope that you will look into SB 741 and to adopt the ordinances that are necessary for the individual's protection of privacy for their cellular communications. Thank you so very much. God bless.
Thank you for your comments.
Rose Tingle.
Welcome.
Welcome to you also. I wasn't going to speak under public comments, but since your pastor is here, I felt the need to. Your pastor, I believe, is from Saddleback Church, a Baptist church. And is he still here, by the way? Okay.
I don't see him.
Okay. According to the Baptist belief, when you disrespect any of God's creation, you are disrespecting God. I want you to keep that in mind. Also, Mayor Pro Tem Voigt, you of all people, I'm really surprised at your support of remaining with the county shelter. I say that because probably you of all people have suffered the most physically than any of your fellow councilmen. I'm sure you know how it feels to be powerless, and that's exactly how those animals feel at the animal shelter. So I hope that you change your attitude towards this issue and help the powerless, because you have the power to help them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
We've had no additional requests.
So I was just curious, I think one of the speakers mentioned something about the city and the school district having a school in town. I don't know if staff wanted to briefly reply to that. I think we have, 2 minutes for each item? Is that what our, I think that's rhetorical, so.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we require each of the developers to have their own independent dialogue with the school district as to how their students would be accommodated. Those conversations ordinarily, and I think in this last particular instance, resulted in an agreement, a contract between the developer and the school district as to how many and how much they would pay in fees on the basis that the school district felt that it could, in fact, accommodate the students that would be generated by the project. So those agreements become exhibits to your development agreement, and therefore are also, obviously, if the fees aren't paid, they're enforceable by the city. But fundamentally, each of the developers go to the district itself to negotiate and talk about how their students will be accommodated.
Great, thank you. I think the second item I wanted to follow up, one of the speakers mentioned something about no infrastructure being built due to the new developments. I kind of recall Rancho Parkway, Alton Parkway. I think there's a bunch of different intersections that are being improved. Do you have maybe some comments on those?
Mr. Members of the Council, I guess it depends on what one believes infrastructure might be, but clearly building a building is infrastructure to a certain degree, and we've certainly built sports park. But there's a number of facilities that were accommodated through the development that includes the extension of Alton Parkway, other streets, as the Mayor indicated, was through Rancho Parkway. And there is the Lifton program that will build infrastructure throughout the community based on the traffic models that were also paid for by the developers as we were going through that process over a decade ago. Fundamentally, so there's an amount of infrastructure that relates particularly to the transportation system. However, other infrastructure, if one believes that sewers and water and things of that nature are the responsibility of the developer, and of course they need to build that themselves.
And lastly, I think one of the speakers said something about we won't hound you, or we wouldn't be hounded. We actually had somebody here in December, it was a resident here, Tracy Tingley, who said, quote, "As a mother and wife, I ask you to save your family from the public embarrassment of the recall. Having people stand out front of your children's school looking for signatures to recall you, how is that going to feel for your children? Is that what you want?" So I guess I'm a little confused, but hopefully we won't get hounded. So with that, we're on to the consent calendar.
Mayor, I need
Yes.
to address someone who addressed me, so if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
I'd like to use my 2 minutes. When somebody comes, sits in the front row.
You know, if you're going to, I'm not going to allow personal, if you want to talk about an issue, talk about an issue.
The person can
We're not,
said what he said. I just
okay.
I just want to educate.
If you're going to talk about a person, let's talk about the issue. No personal attacks. Let's talk about the issue.
There's no personal attack.
I believe you just talked about Tracy Tingley, so I'm not exactly sure why he came.
Yeah, exactly. What's that
That
about?
was a direct quote.
Well, I'm going to give a direct quote. Just bear with me. So please start my 2 minutes now, because a minute is gone already. When somebody comes, sits in the front row, comes and renders his public speaking, his or her public speaking, and then leaves, I don't know what that would tell you, but that would tell me that their heart is not here. They don't really want to be here. They're here for an agenda. Because they have an agenda. I'm not saying necessarily it's a bad agenda, but when you come here, you sit in the front row, you're anxious to get up, you say your 3 minutes, and then you leave. Again, I wonder where your heart is. I wonder whether you're a hired gun, just regurgitating what you've been told to say, or whether it is coming from your heart. You be the judge. The gentleman left, but I know he can watch this recording, Mr. Tim Odell. The charges against me were dropped. I was never handcuffed. My car was never searched. I was not even asked for my driver's license. I removed an illegally placed sign, and anybody can do that. Any one of you. Doesn't matter. It turned out to be the case. I have a letter. I sued the DA for defamation, and he didn't really want money, just wanted everything on the record. And I have a letter from the DA, which is public record, so you can ask for it from the DA's office. I can provide it to you. in which they're apologizing, and they're indicating that the charges were dropped. So I was a big enough man to just walk away and not ask for money, because my lawsuit was not about money. It was to just set the record straight. Again, I didn't do anything illegal. The charges were dropped. Let's move forward. This gentleman is not happy with me because he went online to Dr. Gardner's website and trashed us because we wanted to have our own animal control. And all I did to him, for him, anyway, all I did last night, I said, can I finish this? It's one sentence.
I think it's 2 minutes.
2 minutes, but you took some of it.
The city attorney said you could proceed.
Thank you.
If I understand you right.
Thank you.
It's the mayor's prerogative.
I thought the Brown Act, though, was 2 minutes.
That's a council policy. The Brown Act allows a short response to public comment.
It took me a good half a minute. This is just one sentence.
All right, one sentence.
Thank you. He said that the city did not have a mandate or animal services were not essential. I normally don't go online, but I can't help it. Animals can't speak for themselves, so I want to do the speaking for them. I said, and this is all I said, I believe animal services are essential, and I don't believe government and the private sector must be mutually exclusive in this endeavor, Mr. Odell. In any case, whether or not animal services are quote-unquote essential, and if so, whether the government or the private sector should be in charge, might be subjective or up for debate. But the greatness of a people can be judged by the way they treat animals. And the heart of a person can be judged by his or her treatment of animals. That's all I said. And we see the animosity tonight. Thank you. You be the judge. Thank you for listening.
And thank you. That was the longest sentence ever. So
that's called a compound sentence, my friend.
Okay. I think it's multiple sentences. All right. We're on to the consent calendar. Agenda item number 3. I'll entertain. Does anyone entertain?
Move the warrant registry item number 3.
Second.
All right. Let's vote.
What are we doing?
Agenda item number 3.
That motion carries unanimously.
Great, thanks. And we are now on to the consent calendar for agenda items 4 and 5.
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second that.
Let's vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
Which leads us to a public hearing.
Agenda item 6, public hearing for the issuance of tax-exempt bonds by the California Municipal Finance Authority for use by Portola Seniors Ciclp for its proposed senior affordable housing project at Portola Center South, submitted by Assistant City Manager.
So we go a little different with public hearings. We're going to open the public hearing, which I'm doing right now. We'll receive the staff report, go with the public testimony, and then bring it back to the council. So, with that, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Members of the Council. I will ask Ms. Rose to provide the staff's report on this item.
Mayor and members of the Council, I'd like to bring up Jessica Gonzalez, Economic Development and Housing Manager. She'll be providing an overview of the item.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We are here this evening to conduct a public hearing pursuant to the Federal Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, also known as TEFRA, which relates to tax-exempt bond financing. Portola Senior Ciclp, also known as Chelsea Investment Corporation, proposes to obtain tax-exempt financing in an amount not to exceed $13 million to finance the acquisition, rehabilitation, improvement, and construction of 58 senior housing units located within the Portola Center site. The Portola Center site's development agreement includes an affordable housing implementation plan, which facilitates the developer's compliance with the development agreement and the city's affordable housing goals as outlined in the city's general plan and in its housing element. Chelsea Investment Corporation is the developer's affordable housing partner and is proposing to construct 57 on-site affordable senior housing units, 1 market-rate caretaker unit, and 10,000 square feet of commercial retail on the 2-acre Portola South mixed-use portion of the Portola Center site. The proposed project will be presented for Planning Commission approval in the upcoming months as part of the site development permit application process. As part of that process, the public will have an opportunity to provide input on the project, specifically during the public hearing that will be held at that time. At this time, Chelsea is only seeking approval to issue the bonds and meet the state's bond issuance deadline of February 15, 2016, by providing proof of tonight's public hearing. In order for all or a portion of the bonds to qualify as tax-exempt bonds, TEFRA requires that a public hearing be held by the governing body of the jurisdiction in which a project to be financed is located. The bonds would be issued through the California Municipal Finance Authority, also known as CMFA. CMFA is a joint powers authority formed to assist local governments, nonprofit organizations, and businesses with the issuance of bonds. The Internal Revenue Code also requires that the governing body adopt a resolution approving the proposed tax-exempt financing by becoming a member of the bond issuing authority, in this case CMFA, and signing a joint exercise of powers agreement with that authority. There is no cost associated with joining CMFA. This proposed request is similar to the tax-exempt revenues bonds public hearing held in 2013 for Shea Baker Ranch Meta Housing's affordable housing project. At that time, the City Council held the required public hearing. They adopted a resolution to join the bond issuing authority and directed the mayor to sign the related joint exercise of powers agreement. Staff confirmed with the City Attorney's Office that joining the CMFA to allow for bond issuance for the Portola South senior housing units does not constitute approval of the project, but only allows the authority, CMFA, to issue the bonds. Additionally, staff confirmed with the City Attorney's Office that the debt to be issued by the CMFA will be the sole responsibility of Chelsea, and the city will not in any way have any financial or legal obligations or responsibilities with regard to the repayment of the bond debt. All financing documents will carry disclaimers that the loan is not an obligation of the city. The city will not bear any costs with the issuance of the proposed debt. Consequently, staff recommends that the City Council approve the resolution and the agreement with CMFA. The resolution and the agreement authorizing the city to become a member of the CMFA for the purposes of allowing CMFA to issue the bonds have been reviewed by the City Attorney's Office and were provided for the City Council's review and approval. CMFA will proceed with issuing the bonds on behalf of Chelsea if and when the Planning Commission approves the site development permit, which will be presented to the Planning Commission in the upcoming months, and which will also include an opportunity for the public to provide input. Representatives from Chelsea Investment Corporation and CMFA are present this evening, and they're available to answer any questions specific to the project financing. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we had any public comments?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll bring it back to the council.
I have a question, Ms. Gonzalez. Could you give us a very brief idea? What does it mean to be senior affordable? Like, who would qualify for that? And also with regard to the affordable, what difference does that make between the normal 900 or 850 units that are going to be up there and these 57 units? Or, sure. Sure, either way.
I'm Bob Cummings with Chelsea Investment Corporation. We're the partner. We build, this is what we do for a living, we build affordable apartments all over California. To answer your question, it's age restricted to 62 and over. One of the spouses would have to be 62. I believe there's a restriction of maybe 55 for the other spouse. And as far as the income, it's based on 60% or 50% of the area median income. So it's based on a range of what the area median income is on percentage.
Okay, and what difference in prices, for example, does that make, that it'll be affordable versus non-affordable?
It depends. It ends up being about 60% of what market rate would be, something around there on average.
Can I get two?
Be the first on the waiting list. There you go.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sir.
So, with these 57 units coming up, in that, so that'll count for a low-income housing requirement and mandate by the state?
That will satisfy the master developer's inclusionary requirement. So it's based on a percentage, I think 10%, but that makes it so they can build their market rate.
So 57 affordable senior with one caretaker?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a procedure to how to get in?
Typically, there's several months before we're finished. About 6 months, we have signage up, and anybody that's interested would call the number, and they get put on a wait list. And it's a blind eye wait list. It's once we get all the names, then at a certain point we send out packages, and all the packages go out the same day, and the priority is based on when those packages are received. So some people mail them back the same day. They could be first on the list, and that's basically based on tax returns, how they qualify.
How many other projects do you have of this kind?
Chelsea, we build them and we own them basically forever, and we own about 40 projects in California.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, we'll bring it back to the council for comments or a motion. And we'll close the public hearing. Although I thought that was part of the motion. Oh, that's the Planning Commission. All right. So we'll close the public hearing.
Well, with the success that we had at the Shea Baker project over there, I think that having a mixed use of housing with different affordabilities enables us, the City of Lake Forest, to fill the many needs of different income brackets, and the fact that as senior citizens, I support that, and I will make a motion that we move this agenda item.
And I'll second. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Mayor Pro Tem Voights, I'm waiting on a vote.
Am I pushed?
It's saying you haven't voted yet.
Mine's an A, yay.
If I see him
Okay.
pushing it, so maybe
Okay.
the.
Can we take a
Yes.
voice vote then?
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations. Moving on to discussion item number 7, or it's discussion and action item number 7.
Agenda item 7, consideration of applicants to fill the Planning Commission vacancy for the term expiring December 2016 pursuant to the Madiac, submitted by City Clerk.
Little staff report, maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. As was outlined in the report, previous Commissioner Charles Brower did resign. He moved out of state, actually, to accept employment in another part of the country. Consequently, that created a vacancy in the position that he held on the Planning Commission. As the City Clerk has said, and what we've provided in our report, we did advertise this pursuant to the Madiac, and you've received 3 applications for this position, and it would fill the unexpired term that Mr. Brower had. The staff has nothing actually to add further at this juncture. We'd be glad to respond to questions. At this point, however, it also might be appropriate for the council to allow each of the candidates to present their qualifications for 3 minutes. If there's any questions by council, you're certainly free to do that. And then I believe the clerk has a ballot that each of you could mark and follow that until someone actually is appointed to that position. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that's all the staff has.
Great. Any public comments beside the three applicants?
There have been no requests.
Great. So I think the staff report has chosen maybe the order, so we'll just go in order. Kyle Carroll. Welcome and
good evening. Raise this a little bit. My name is Kyle Carroll. As the application indicates, I was born and raised in Mission Viejo. I went to college in Irvine, and I went to law school at Chapman University in Orange. I graduated in 2008 with an emphasis certificate in environmental, land use, and real estate law. I've been practicing since 2008 for a firm in Newport Beach. I specialize in civil defense litigation. My wife and I bought a house in Lake Forest in 2012. We've been there ever since. We have a 3-year-old son, and because of that, obviously myself, I have a vested interest in ensuring that Lake Forest continues to grow, be a safe and vibrant city for my son, my family, as well as all young professionals, young families who are looking to grow, visit, work in, and live in Lake Forest. I think it's important that the Planning Commission have a diversity with respect to age in order to ensure that young professionals, young families are considered. I believe that my educational background and my certificate in land use, environmental law, and real estate law will better allow me to understand, analyze, and interpret city ordinances, planning issues, and for the development of our city. Unless you guys have any additional questions, I know it was fairly short, but that's my statement.
Any questions?
Yeah, thank you for applying. We really appreciate you. And what do you think is the biggest challenges as we go forward in the future with the City of Lake Forest?
I think it's important that we keep young professionals, young families to want to move into Lake Forest. I know myself, we moved in 2012, and we have a lot of family and friends who are starting to move. I think it's important that Lake Forest is a city where people want to come to and stay and grow and build families within the city. And not only that, but also continue to work and live and have, like the Lake Forest Park, I think is huge for us. I think it's going to be incredibly important for my son to play sports at the park. We go there all the time. I think it's important to have that kind of stuff for young families.
Thank you.
Just kind of piggybacking off that question, how would you think we might go about that? How do we attract young families? How do we make that happen? I'm just like you. I moved into town when we'd just gotten married, and now it's been 17 years, and I've seen the community change quite a bit. I know it's a big struggle for people that aren't double income or attorneys or business owners to be able to afford to live here. So how do you think we accomplish that?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot more time that I need to look into that. But I think as one example, I think the redevelopment project off of Lake Forest, turning some of those centers into sort of to revitalize them, create new, personally, non-chain restaurants and places where I think it's important to that I enjoy to eat, go to, and redevelop and revitalize the city in that respect.
Okay, and just one other question for you. Being that you're in the land use litigation side, do you see any conflicts? I mean, have you represented anyone who may be doing business in Lake Forest, or?
Well, just for clarification, I don't do. I have a certificate, emphasis certificate from law school in environmental land use and real estate law, but I practice civil defense litigation. I don't do land use with regards to my job right now. Okay. But on that note, no. One of the other points especially after tonight, I think it's important. I'm fully independent. I don't have any conflicts. I don't have any relationships with any businesses or anything like that in the city.
Sure, and not that precludes you. You just have to recuse yourself. And
I understand.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had one comment. I wish I'd used that youth line when I was applying for the Planning Commission, so a great line. I'll have to tuck that away, although I think I'm starting to get a little out of that zone. In your Lake Forest comment, where are you saying the one on the freeway or up kind of in the foothill? Which
no, the one on the freeway.
Okay.
Lake Forest
by the 5
and
freeway.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Right off the freeway where the Buffalo Wild Wings is.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Next up, Mr. Thomas Cagley. Colonel.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I hope I don't take too much of your time. You know me. I've been before this council many, many times on different subjects. You have my packet in front of you, so I can't add anything to that packet too much. I've been active in this community. I enjoy being active in this community. As you all know, you may always agree with me, but I am very happy to be so. I bring to the commission a broad view. I don't have the youth, Mayor, that you would like to have. I've got the old guard attitude, and not an attitude so much as experience. I've come from many different environments, having been in the military for 30 years, lived in many different places. Having served on the Orange County Grand Jury 2 years ago as our chairman of the city's committee, I've interfaced with nearly all the 34 cities in Orange County, including Lake Forest. I've only lived here a little over 3 years when I married Nancy and moved into her house, which is much nicer than the one I had in Yorba Linda. And we have many resources in this city, and we need to use them to plan for their use wisely. We all know things the city needs: clean and reliable, humane society, animal shelter, a permanent senior center, accommodation for our Meals on Wheels program, and final, a permanent workable solution to that abomination known as Village Pond Park, which has been frustrating more councils than you folks before most of you got here on this council. I attend the Southern California Water Committee hearings. I speak for them. I go to have attendance in the Morlock's office and dealing with the water, because I still think water is a a very important issue with a very horrible outlook at the moment. Even though we had a half inch of rain on Sunday, which is nice to have, it won't cure our problem. Of course, I understand the snowpack is really doing great. I don't ski, so I don't go up to Bear Mountain and see that. That's really all I have to say. I don't want to take up your time. I said you've known me for 3 years, most of you. If you have any questions, we'll try to answer them.
Before anyone started in, I just liked his line about the youth.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah. I'm an equal age opportunity selector.
Age and guile overcome youth and enthusiasm every time. And just because I'm chronologically gifted, it should not be held against me.
I like that line, too. Any questions?
Yes.
Thank you once again for applying and being involved with our city. I know your passion for water, so I probably could answer your own question, but what do you see one of the future challenges of the city of Lake Forest?
Well, I think we had to continue the project's already been started, and that's converting over to recycled water wherever possible. It certainly should be in the new developments, and I think that's actually the plan going forward. I also think that we do have the challenge that was brought up about the schools. We have had young people leave this city. In fact, a gentleman ran for the city council 2 years ago, Mike Healy, left because he had to bus his children so far away to schools. It's okay that Saddleback Valley School District has got their agreement with the developers, but that's not helping the kids, and the youth are going to be going out there. They're not going to go down where I live or where the schools are. They're going to be out there in new development, new homes. At least that would be in my opinion. If you get new people to come here, young people to come here. Did that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And next up is Mr. Mark Armando. Welcome.
Good evening. As I said, my name is Mark Armando, and I currently serve on the City Lake Forest Traffic Advisory Group. My wife and I have lived in this city for 31 years, in fact, back when it was El Toro, and we've enjoyed watching it grow. We've raised our 2 daughters here. They've started at Lake Forest Elementary, went to Serrano, and both graduated from El Toro High School. We continue to live here because we love this city, and we like its beauty, and we like the way it's going. And that's part of the reason I want to serve on the Planning Commission, is I'd like to see it continue that way. I'm a retired police officer of 30 years with Huntington Beach Police Department. I've had the opportunity to speak at a lot of different community groups, schools, and whatnot. Also, as part of that job, I've conducted numerous investigations in which I talked to suspects, talked to witnesses, read over reports, look at evidence, and after gathering information from all sorts of different areas, we make a decision. I think that's not quite, that's pretty much like what it is on the Planning Commission, and as well probably the City Council. You know, you take information from staff, you take information from various sources, you look at reports, you look at all the different input, and from that you make a decision. One of the things that I want you to know, though, is that all my decisions that I make in this regard will always with the thought of, will this be the best interest for the City of Lake Forest? And when that question's answered, I'll answer it with yes, and that will always be my decision. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate you listening, and thanks.
Thanks. Any questions?
I'll just continue my theme. What do you think the biggest challenges are for the City of Lake Forest future?
You know, like I said, when we moved here, it was El Toro, and we saw the city growth. And I think that's probably the biggest issue, is the growth of the city, within reason. I'd like to see it grow. I'd like to see, you know, not going crazy and just approving anything you can imagine, but making sure that it all comes together and it Lake Forest stays beautiful. And that's one of the reasons, like I said, I want to serve on the Planning Commission, because I want to see it continue that way.
Thank you.
Any others?
Just, I noticed you've been on a homeowners association board for a while. So,
yes.
How's that collegial relationship developed for you, as well as your brief time here on the?
Well, it's interesting. You know, and as you well know, every decision that you make, it's going to make some people happy, and it's going to make some people not happy.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. But I can handle that. You know, as long as I know that I've done the best for the City of Lake Forest. That's kind of the same way on the homeowners association. Is you know, we've got to make some decisions, and makes people happy, and some not. But like I said, we work as a group, and like I said, I'm used to working as a team player. I think that's an important asset for somebody that's serving on a commission like that. And I work well with others, and the same thing as on our homeowners association board.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to briefly say, 3 well-qualified candidates. Thank you, all 3 of you, for coming. If I'm going to go out on a limb here and say 2 of you are probably not going to make it tonight, but that doesn't mean we don't want you to come back again and still be involved. So whoever makes it, great. The other 2, please continue to be involved, and I'm sure you, like me, love Lake Forest. So thank you for applying. So I think we can proceed.
Yes, you should have ballots in front of you. If you just make one selection, I'll come around and collect those, and we'll tabulate.
Just to echo Mayor Hamilton's words, I ran for the City Council 3 times and I lost. And eventually I got up here. So if you lose tonight, don't let that discourage you from continuing to be involved. And Mark and Tom, thank you already for being so involved in the activities of the city. Wish I could vote for everybody.
We did not reach consensus. Mayor Hamilton and Mayor Pro Tem Voights voted for Mark Armando. Councilmember Gardner and Councilmember Nick voted for Tom Cagley. And Councilmember Robinson voted for Kyle Carroll. So you have additional ballots in front of you.
Are we eliminating one, or we're just going again with all 3?
That's at the council's discretion.
I mean, I think each one received a vote, so I think it would be appropriate to keep everyone on. unless there's a change in opinion.
Madam Clerk.
And the outcome of the votes is identical to round one. 2 votes for Tom Cagley, 2 votes for Mark Armando, and 1 vote for Mr. Carroll.
Isn't that the definition of insanity?
Well, let me suggest that we remove the lower one and then force us a vote.
There's only 3 left. There's only 3 there. I'd assume go with all 3 still.
Anyone else? I guess we could try another round with all 3.
The outcome is the same. The Mayor Hamilton and Councilmember Robinson voted for Mark Armando. Mayor Pro Tem Voights voted for Kyle Carroll. And Councilmember Nick and Councilmember Gardner voted for Tom Cagley.
All right, one more round, and then we'll consider narrowing candidates.
Mayor Pro Tem Voights, Mayor Hamilton, and Councilmember Robinson voted for Mark Armando, so that's 3 votes, with Councilmember Gardner and Councilmember Nick selecting Tom Cagley. Mr. Armando has been selected to the Planning Commission.
Congratulations. And again, thank you everyone for applying. I think we all enjoyed hearing from all 3 of you. And just to clarify, I don't know if it was verbally mentioned, but the term goes through January of 2017, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Congratulations. Thanks, everybody. That leads us to agenda item 8. Do we have any, just out of curiosity, do we have any public requests to speak on that one?
We've had no request to speak on agenda item 8, City of Kindness. We have one request to speak on Agenda Item 8. That's the City of Kindness Initiative submitted by City Clerk.
Okay. I think normally we'd just go through a little staff report, but I'm going to ask if we can continue that item. I don't know if the speaker would want to speak at this time or go in 2 weeks. Okay, sure, you can speak now on this item, and then, like I said, I'll move that we move it 2 weeks out.
Okay, Sherry Anderson, Lake Forest. I don't know exactly what you're going to be talking about, but kindness to me means you don't kill our abandoned lost pets and send them to Orange County, which is what's going to happen. They're going to be killed. That you would pass Meals on Wheels for our seniors. That you would treat the city council members of other cities fairly. When we had the meeting in October, you were very rude to the person from Lake Forest, or from Laguna Hills, and it's gone through the city. That's when Laguna Hills and Rancho Santa Margarita pulled out working with us for the animal no-kill initiative we have here because of the rudeness that went on at that. That you're kinder to us as residents, especially when we're here to express ourselves, and tonight I think is a good start. I can see a difference already. And that you treat each other more kindly. So, for instance, the postcard that everybody received in the mail calling Councilman Adams nuts, that's being supported by a construction company, which supports our three in the middle, our three councilmen in the middle, absolutely horrible. I'm involved in the recall petition signing, and I don't know anyone that I'm working with that's passing those around that has anything to do with Councilman Adams. We're here, and we're doing that because of your votes, what you're voting for. We don't like the direction you're sending the city in, our pets, the development, or any of that, and that's why we're doing it. It has nothing to do with Councilman Adams. So those are some of my suggestions about being a kinder city.
Great, thank you for your comments. So I'd like to continue this item for 2 weeks. I guess that was a motion, and we've had a second. Any discussion? All right, let's cast our ballots.
That motion carried unanimously.
Which leads us to Agenda Item 9.
Agenda Item 9, discussion regarding the 2014 Orange County Animal Care Services Billing and Finance Operations Advisory Board, submitted by Assistant City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this item was placed on the agenda by the Council, and staff prepared a short report related to this item. I'd like to turn this over to Ms. Rose for a presentation on this item.
Mayor and members of the City Council, at your January 5th meeting, the Council voted to discuss 2 items related to animal control. The first was the accuracy of Orange County Animal Care billing, and the second was meetings of the Financial and Operational Advisory Board, also referred to as the Finance and Operations Board, also referred to as FOAB. The city is billed quarterly. The bills are divided into 2 cost centers: field, which includes animal control officers and licensing, and shelter services. For field services, the city is billed on the number of field actions attributed to our city within a 3-month period. And for shelter services, we're billed based on the number of animal charge days from animals that are found to be from Lake Forest. These numbers produce Lake Forest's percentage share of services, and this percentage is applied to the total cost for that quarter. Revenues from Lake Forest are then applied against this cost, and the remainder is charged to the city in our quarterly bills. In December, Councilmember Gardner requested staff obtain documentation from OC Animal Care to substantiate the billing for services received in calendar year 2014. In response, the county provided an excerpt from their database containing records for that time period. According to the staff's review of the data, we were billed for 9 fewer field actions and 2 fewer animal charge days than were reflected in the backup data provided to us by the county. This is an overall error rate of less than 1%. Translated to dollars, the city was underbilled by approximately $2,000. The second item that the council reached consensus to discuss is the Orange County Animal Care Financial and Operational Advisory Board, as I mentioned, referred to as the FOAB. The purpose of the FOAB, as stated in the agreements with the contract cities, is to advise the Director of Animal Control on financial and operational matters, to assess cost options, and communicate with the Orange County City Managers Association. The FOAB meets monthly at the OC Animal Shelter. It officially consists of 7 members. 6 are appointed by the Orange County City Managers Association and 1 by the county. However, the meetings are open to staff from any OC Animal Care contract city. I am an appointed member of the FOAB, and Public Safety Manager Jim Wren also regularly attends these meetings. Agendas for the FOAB meetings are distributed to members in advance. Minutes are not produced as there are no votes taken. The FOAB operates as a staff-level working group. While the FOAB offers input on potential policies and procedures, decisions are made by either county staff or the Board of Supervisors. Previously, I received a request from a member of the council about attending a FOAB meeting. I posed this question to the county and was told that the FOAB is not a Brown Act committee and its meetings are not public meetings. The staff report also provides information on the Animal Care Community Outreach Committee. This is a committee created by the Board of Supervisors to facilitate citizen involvement in animal care and community outreach programs. It meets quarterly, and it's made up of 5 members of the public from each of the 5 supervisorial districts. The committee does fall under the Brown Act, and members of the public may attend these meetings and offer any public comment. This concludes my report, and Carlo, as well as Nicole Miller, are here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any members from the public?
Randy Johnson, followed by Rose Tingle.
Welcome again.
Good evening again, Council. Randy Johnson from Lake Forest. And first of all, with regard to the billing practices, we can't even trust Orange County Animal Care when it comes to the stupid license compliance data or with their euthanasia data. How am I going to trust them when it comes to their billing practices? Well, I looked at those sheets of data. How do I know all that took place? You know, if they're going to fudge their numbers on the other stuff, why wouldn't they fudge it on their billing practices and charge us much more than what we should pay? That's a legitimate concern. Number 2, with regard to FOAB, this is the most ridiculous thing in the world. You know, look, they recommend and advise on policy, financial and operations. They're the ones who recommend the licenses go up in price, okay? Yet I'm not allowed to be there to watch my representative represent me. I'm not allowed to be there. They don't have any minutes. They don't do any reports after the meetings are over with, not even one. I don't even know what goes on there. They could sell me up the river and I wouldn't even know about it. But I know that they were the ones who recommend that the licenses go up when we already pay the highest license fees and penalties of any other county in the state. And you can check that out if you don't believe me. If they're going to make policy that's going to impact my life, I want to be able to be there. I don't care about the damn Brown Act. If the Brown Act doesn't apply, then make it apply. Because I have a right to be there if they're going to recommend to the Board of Supervisors certain policies that affect my life as a dog owner. That's not asking for too much. That's democracy in action. I don't care about this other organization, ACCOC. It's a sounding board. I can go to their complaint and afterwards, you know, they go out and have a beer together. They don't tell anybody about it. They don't care. They don't have any authority. The ones that have the authority are FOAB. If anything should be under the Brown Act, it should be FOAB. And I want to know how my representatives perform there. If they're going to show up, my city representatives, I'm paying them their salaries and pensions and everything else. I want to see how they're representing me, and I should have a right to that. And anything less than that is absolutely unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Rose Tingle, followed by Sherry Anderson.
Welcome again.
Thank you. Okay, in regards to the FOAB committee, The committee was created by the Orange County City Managers Association, and I am requesting tonight that you recommend to your city manager that these meetings be open to the public in the interest of transparency in government, which I'm sure you want to see. The reasons are, as Mr. Johnson said prior to me, there are no minutes taken at the meeting. The meetings are basically secret. Nobody knows what they do. How do we know what they do? I have never seen any written evidence of a report of any kind from an FOAB member to a city council. In fact, I was talking to a city council member up in North County. She didn't even know that the committee existed. I mean, this committee has 6 or 7 members representing 18 cities. Keep this in mind, the shelter was allowed to deteriorate to such a condition that it caused 5 Orange County grand jury reports, and the general public did not know about this until the grand jury report came out. The FOAB committee should have been advising their city councils what was going on at that shelter. Do you realize how many animals died because no action was taken? I mean, is that transparency in government? I would like to see at least residents from the city of Lake Forest be able to attend those meetings. And with all due respect to your staff, these are not my words. It was on another OC political blog that Lake Forest, this was about 2 years ago, Lake Forest has the worst minutes in Orange County. That is not my words. That's another person's words. So I lack confidence in the minutes taken, so a report from your staff to you would not be sufficient. I would want somebody physically present at those meetings. And the Animal Care Committee, they meet at 11:30 in the morning when most people are working. How is the public supposed to attend those meetings? It's not convenient. It's not something that the average person can attend, and they do not have any authority. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Sherry Anderson.
Two things. I just want to remind you they're known for corruption, according to the grand jury, so I don't know if you can trust any of their numbers. Again, you've approved to give them $950,000 on April 1st, and what I ask is that you hold off on that, and or give them a portion of it and spread it out until after the recall. As you know, it's a big, big part of our recall, and we hope to pull away from them. If you accept Dr. Gardner's option tonight, great. We won't even have to deal with them. But I just think it's horrible.
Thank you for your comments, and welcome again.
We've had no additional requests.
All right, we'll bring it back to council.
Yeah, I was the person who discovered that Orange County was distorting, I suppose is the kindest word, the data and making it look like they were killing fewer than they were killing. And they denied it for 6 months and disparaged me several times, only to ultimately change the website and admit that they were wrong. And it's Mr. Johnson, thank you, who exposed the compliance problem. They were, again, kindly saying distorting that data too, and making it look like they were complying more than they were. And in fact, I'm not sure, I guess I haven't announced it yet or it hasn't come up, but they recently sent me a letter saying that Mr. Johnson was correct about that too, and in fact they are changing their website, and they will in the future provide the accurate data. So it was those two events that caused my concern. Okay, if they're screwing that up, are they screwing up the financial data? It doesn't look that way, and yet one of our speakers said, but how do we know that it's really true? Well, we don't, but you know, I'm not sure there's anything we can do about it. I did, by the way, I've been working on the proposal that I'll be talking about later, and hopefully giving you slides and council members all have copies of the proposal as well. This is the proposal, by the way, that I said we'd be working on back in December, and that we've been working, this group of people, including Councilman Nick, for the last 2 months. So that's how that came up. But in doing that proposal, I used the same data that you had in order to get my figures in the data that I needed for this proposal. And then I compared your data with my data to see if you screwed up. And you did an excellent job, 100% agreement, so good job. Oh, Carla, okay, excellent job. So all the, your analysis of their data was the same as my analysis of their data. Doesn't mean that it's true, but at least we reliably. It is interesting to note, though, having said that I then took the data that Carlo and I agreed on, and I went up to their website, because they produce this data up on their website as to what they're doing, and almost all the data on their website is incorrect, or at least it doesn't match what we got from exploring the raw data. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. However, I don't think there's anything we can do. It looks, from what they're giving us, it looks pretty good. And that much data and that much finances, those kind of errors ought to be expected under any circumstances. So there's really nothing to worry about except whether or not it's true, and there's nothing we can do about that. So I'm happy to move on from I'm not worried about the finances anymore. Talking about FOAB, I'm not sure we can recommend to Deborah or to the city manager that they open it to the public. We're not in charge of that. There's nothing we could do, but we could recommend that. We could require that Deborah or whoever's attending on her behalf give us extensive minutes so we keep track of it. Why would I want to keep track of it? Well, I was at a meeting, and I believe Ms. Tingle was at that same meeting where Steve Franks, he's the head of Community Services, and Janet Hawkins, who is the director of the shelter, when asked by the Laguna Hills City Council what that FOAB role was, and they pretty much indicated that FOAB, although they're recommending, they're pretty much making policy. So they're only technically recommending it, but generally speaking, what they recommend happens. So I think if we stay with them, God forbid that we stay with them, and I hope you'll agree to send my proposal back to the staff so we can discuss it at the next meeting. But if we stay with them, then I think we need to be kept abreast of what they're recommending, because chances are ultimately what they're recommending is going to come out as policy somewhere. And if we wait until it's actually policy somewhere, that may be too late. So it'd be like an early warning system that we get Deborah or whoever's representing her to give us meetings from the minutes. And so when we finish the discussion, I'll be recommending that, number one, and also number two, that we also recommend that it be open to the public.
So I guess I think you're right. I think the first half, when you were talking about the billing, doesn't appear to be an issue. I guess my only concern about opening up the FOAB to the public is that, probably as the city manager can attest to, he receives advice from staff all the time. And so he doesn't have like a public meeting every time he solicits advice from Mal. He doesn't have a public meeting where the public can attend every time he solicits advice from, I could go through the whole list. So I see they're having the necessity to receive advice from the cities that are represented by the participants within, and they've got to be able to communicate to us. We've got to be able to communicate to them, and I think this is the forum for them to do that. I understand your comment of them saying that it's a de facto decision-making body, but the public would be then involved at the county when a policy is adopted. So, I see that they might make recommendations, but then those recommendations have to be acted on in a public meeting. So I understand your concerns. I see there being a need for the county to be able to communicate directly with the contract, with the participating cities. And just like we don't have a public meeting every time Bob talks and receives advice from each of the departments, I kind of see it in that similar manner. In addition, there is a public body created, the Animal Care Committee, to serve as a public forum and to receive advice from the public. So, there is even an additional forum there, too. So, I'd love to dialogue further on this if you had, I'd like to understand more maybe about what your concern is. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't, the FOAB, is that considered is that the closed session of the animal control, explain to me more.
No, it's, the FOAB is mentioned in each of the member agencies' agreements, and it says the parties will agree that this FOAB exists, and it consists of the staff members appointed by the Association of City Managers, and then one county member. But it's basically a staff working group. So it's a policy recommendation kind of committee, but it's not a public meeting, as I stated.
Okay, so tell me more about the Animal Care Community Outreach Committee.
Okay, that is a Brown-acted committee. It was created by the Board of Supervisors, and they do publicly appoint members. There's one member for each supervisorial group. They do have quarterly meetings. Their agendas are on the county website, and they're held at the Hall of Administration. And it's a public meeting just kind of set up similar to this one.
So that is appointed by Supervisor
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Supervisor Spitzer, Supervisors Janet Wynn.
Right, by the board. And so those appointees act as representatives for that district. So District 5's representative is Ms. April Josephson, and so she represents the communities in the 5th District on that committee.
How often do they meet? The fourth
Quarterly.
Wednesday of January, April. Okay, quarterly. Okay.
I agree with the comments that the mayor was stating regarding the group. It's a working group. It's trying to get things done, and just like any staff meeting that occurs here, when two city managers meet, from neighboring cities to talk about issues, the public isn't invited to those. But when policy is being voted on, the public's always invited. So my first question would probably be to the city attorney. It's just more procedural, but from a FOIA perspective, would you have any knowledge of, so if they make a policy recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, then that policy recommendation, at one point, it's a work product, right? So it's in a draft form. I'm guessing that most attorneys would say this isn't finished yet. It's not close. It's still being worked on. So if there was a request that was put in a PRA or FOIA or whatever, it wouldn't meet the requirement that it would have to be disclosed, maybe. But at some point, I would guess it does. So maybe you could help me a little procedurally where you think the line might be.
Mr. Mayor, council members, if the question is when the policy documents that are created by FOAB become essentially public records that can be disclosed to the public. The PRA contains a provision that stipulates that when a document is still in draft form, it's not yet public. When that document is finalized, and in this case that would likely be when a staff report or recommendation was finalized to go to the board or OCAC for deliberation and determination, that's when that document would become a public record. Also, if there were documents, internal documents, memoranda promulgated by or reviewed by FOAB that never went to the board but essentially became final memoranda that were discussed and relied upon, those would become public records once the drafting or iterative process was complete. So the requirement isn't that it goes to the board eventually, but just that the drafting process is complete. Does that answer your question?
It does. And so would you say anything ever gets to that point? I mean, you've explained there aren't really documents coming out.
The FOAB doesn't create policies. We don't review county policies necessarily. We're reviewing budget information. We're getting updates on the progress of the new shelter. We're following up on operational issues that may occur in our city, but we're certainly not drafting policies.
Okay. All right. There were some questions regarding the payment for the shelter. So would we anticipate on April 1st that we're writing a big giant check, or how would that? How do we see that going out if we were to move forward? Well, we've already approved moving forward, so how do you see that process right now, timeline and everything?
The county is still moving forward with its timeline where they expect to award a contract to a design-build firm at their at one of their early April board meetings. And so they're still telling the member cities that they fully expect the member cities to sign a participation agreement to indicate that they are participating by the beginning of April. However, there is not a final version of what that agreement is going to look like yet. And so that's something that is being put together, and then that will be presented to each of the cities for adoption by their councils. We're being told that's going to happen in March. It's already February, so that timeline, I'm not sure if that timeline is really going to be met, but the county's intention is that each of the councils would be considering this member agreement in the mid to latter part of March to be able to meet that April deadline.
So it's an agreement to move forward, but the payment's going to be spread out over...
And that part has not been finalized, so I couldn't give you an answer on that
Okay.
yet.
Do we have any indication yet whether they're... because I'm guessing for our own budget purposes, we would need to know at this point if we were looking at a lump sum in this fiscal year or not. So do we have any indication at this point whether that's the case, or...
It's still draft language, but some of the concepts they're talking about is for cities, an option to pay all at once in July, or to have a 10-year payback. But again, that's still all draft language. It's still in discussions. So as soon as we get what is called the final, we will certainly let you know.
Okay. All right. This question for Councilmember Gardner. You mentioned that with some information on their website that they made some changes in December, and you said they admitted they were wrong. Did they actually admit they were wrong to you in writing, or are you just
actually, I can
from the fact they changed their website?
No, I can send you the 4-page letter. It's interesting to note that in their letter admitting to their mistakes, although they claim it wasn't intentional, but it's obviously not the issue. They made more mistakes in admitting the mistakes they made than they made originally when I pointed out the mistakes. So, as a matter of fact, I'm spending more time writing a correction of their mistake error letter than I did originally doing the mistakes. In any event, and I won't bore you with what the errors they're making are, But, yeah, no, I can send you a letter once they admit to both of the mistakes. And the one mistake, which is including dead animals as admissions, there no shelter in this country ever did that. And so they just admitted that was wrong. And the one that Mr. Johnson caught was they're using old population data and dividing by an old numerator, which made their numbers look better. So yeah, no, they have admitted to both of those mistakes. I identified several other mistakes that they haven't admitted to yet.
Okay, and these make significant changes in the data that they...
Oh, yeah, the differences between, on dogs, the differences between a euthanasia rate of 9.6 and 22.6, for example.
So, and how does that break down? So 22.6 is that they're including the dead animals that are coming?
Yeah, to get the 9.6, they include the dead animals, so that sounds like they took in 10,000 more animals than they really did, which, as a denominator, reduces the numbers. So when they change that one, it goes from 9.6 to 22.6, which is, and that's just for dogs. There's a similar thing for cats. I think the cats goes from about 22 to 44 or something like that. So those are pretty substantial. And then in the compliance, and Mr. Johnson could correct me if I get this wrong, but they were reporting that their compliance rate was about 51%, and it turned out to be about 42%. Less dramatic than the 9.6 to thing. But just sloppiness, and, what's more disturbing than the errors, quite frankly, was the denial of the errors and the fact that it took them 6 months to correct them in the first place. So that's, anybody, we can all make errors, but their insistence that they weren't errors, that was more worrisome.
Okay. Well, I figure you're going to move on with the proposal. I have tons of questions when we get to that point, so, but I don't have any more questions right now. Actually, just one question. I'm sorry. This isn't for any of us. It's more for the city attorney. But based on how the issue was agendized, can we be having discussions about additional ideas or anything like that? Because, again, the point is that the public is supposed to be notified so that they can participate in the... And I know a lot of people in the room are participating, but I think they know because a lot of them have been part of this little ad hoc committee that you've put together. So, other people that wanted to communicate might look at this agenda item and think it's fairly benign.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I think as Dr. Gardner has previously referenced, the intent is to present that as part of the council comments. That would be the appropriate time, just because this was agendized fairly narrowly, and having a more robust discussion of the proposal could potentially take us beyond the Brown Act limitations. So council comments would be the appropriate time for that discussion.
Okay,
or that presentation and request for consensus as opposed to a discussion.
Okay, that's where I was confused then. I thought it was coming in this agenda item, so my mistake.
City Attorney said exactly right. I had intended it because I didn't think, although it's animals, I didn't think it appropriate to introduce it here, but I had told people that I would be introducing it in council comments, and I have a PowerPoint presentation to go over, and if I run out of my time, I'm going to ask Mr. Nick to go over it. You have presentations, but all I'm going to do, I simply today want to show you that there is a viable alternative out there, and then I'll ask for consensus that we give this proposal to the staff and let the staff go out and make sure that I haven't made errors in my assumptions, my calculations, and for them to come back. So you're not going to be asked to prove anything tonight except that, that from what you say, that looks pretty good. Let's get the staff to come back with us. So that was basically my goal, but there was no time for me to tell you that except now in answer to your question.
So if we have no other discussion, I think this item just was a...
Well, I'd like to make the motion then that we have our representative provide us with minutes of the FOAB meetings.
Okay, and is that something that's allowed under your bylaws of the group?
Well, there are no bylaws.
Okay. Over the past year, I have provided updates on the FOAB as I felt was appropriate. So on 2 occasions to provide an update on what's going on. I think if I was to report back, I think I would limit it to here are items discussed that impact Lake Forest. The previous updates I've done have been updating the council on when a new shelter director was appointed, when the performance audit came out, and when the accounting method for the services was going to change from an accrual method to a cash method. I think minutes would be problematic because I'd be reporting on the comments from other agencies, and I'm not sure that that's really appropriate.
Yeah, and I would, I really only meant, I didn't want us to be spying in there, but only insofar as it affects Lake Forest, rather than a general, this is what people said.
Could we retract that and maybe say like a brief summary of what's...
Well, it sounds like it's being done.
I have done that in the past through your city manager's update, and so they've been, a paragraph or so. And then, this year we've had a lot of discussion on animal control, but through the council agenda. But generally, that's how we've handled this, that if there's something really of note, it's been provided to you through the update.
I don't get it. I just don't understand. Why all the secrecy? This is not national defense. I just don't understand. Why keeping people outside? Why they would even keep us, the elected officials, on the outside? We're all on the same side. These are just animals, for God's sake. We're not talking about nuclear reactors. I don't understand. I just don't get it.
Do you want to amend your motion, or?
Just that following every meeting, if there's anything of relevance to Lake Forest, she's included in the manager's report that comes out anyway.
I second that motion.
And yeah, I agree. I get consensus.
Do we need to say that, though, if you're already doing it? I mean, it feels like we're saying, make sure to drink water every day.
I'm not doing it for every meeting, but if the council would like a summary from every meeting of things that are going to impact Lake Forest, I could do that. There may be meetings where there really is nothing to report.
Okay. So we have a motion in the second? Second by you. All right. Does that help explain your questions?
No, my question was just rhetorical because I just don't understand why. I just don't get it, and I don't understand why there's so much secrecy. I thought it was government for the people, by the people, and this is just animals. I'm not being facetious here when I say I don't understand why the secrecy. I don't get it.
It really comes down to what is actually occurring and what becomes a public discussion. So, like, if you take the federal government as an example, there are definitely, you can sit in the gallery in the House and watch what's going on. Not a whole lot of people do, but you can. You can sit in committee meetings, which are usually filled with lots of people, when they're actually starting to craft a policy. And then you can have a bunch of 20-somethings that are sitting in a congressman's office that are writing hundreds of pages of a bill, all right? And those aren't public situations where people are sitting. They're actually crafting what they're going to talk about and they're going to vote on. And so, like Mayor Hamilton was mentioning, none of us sit in on a city staff meeting. But when a policy is being created, right, something that we've given them direction to do, because we're the policymakers, we've given them direction to craft a policy, They're working on it. They come up with a staff report and a recommendation to us, right? As soon as that comes to us, it's available to the public. The very minute that we have access to it, they have access to it. And then when we vote on it here, they have the ability to come and talk to us about it. If they want to try to reach out to us in between, which a lot of people do via email or phone, between the time that the staff report comes out and the recommendations there and the actual policy is made, they have that opportunity, and a lot of us have been willing to talk to them. So I know you are, and I have as well. So that's how it all works. I mean, it's really, where do you draw that line between you're working on something and does the public just have a right to walk into the city manager Dunnick's office at any time and just sit in on any meeting that he has? You know, there's lines with all this because you have to get work done. You know, and nothing's being once we're going to actually create something, the public should always have the right to comment. And if any of us aren't paying attention to what the public has to say, whether it's here or it's in a grocery store or it's, you know, someone knocking on our door, calling us on the phone, then, you know, shame on us. But
I hear you, Dwight, but do people get a chance at all with these people? I mean, I thought this is closed to the people. So are the people going to get a chance at some point with them?
Yeah, anything that comes out of that group, and I don't know exactly what does, but anything that comes out of that group eventually has to be voted on by an elected official. In this case, the County Board of Supervisors. They're going to take that vote, and everybody has the opportunity to reach out to their county supervisor.
Right, so what you're saying is people cannot directly be involved in that process, but they can express their opinions as to the result.
Yeah, and they can express their opinions ahead of time. Anybody can come here on a non-agendized item, which it happens frequently, and talk to us about an issue that in some way eventually could become policy. So they could be talking to supervisors well in advance of any issue that's being discussed, and they're going to vote on. And you can have that impact at that level. And, you know, when you're dealing with a county supervisor and you've got 3 million people in the county, 600,000 in a district, then there's strength in numbers. So I don't know what impact she has, but I know that Ms. Josephson, she's a Rancho Santa Margarita resident, I believe. She's been to a couple of our meetings. I think Councilmember Gardner knows her pretty well. She's the 5th district representative on the advisory committee. I'm guessing she sees some value on that. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't waste her time going to the quarterly meetings. Now, I don't know exactly what value. I haven't had that discussion with her, but, I mean, that's an opportunity there. That is a citizen representative that gets to have an impact at the county level and try to provide some suggestions. Again, it's like anyone coming to a public comment mic or any of our commissioners who are giving us recommendations or going a certain way. We may agree with them, we may not, but, you know, those are the options. So I don't think that there's necessarily a stifling of public input. I am familiar with working groups that have, you know, public opportunities. There's people can sit in a room, but it really depends on where it goes. That's why I was asking our city attorney, like, where the line is between basically sitting in somebody's office, and this could be 7 people, so it's a little bigger than an office, but a conference room, and talking about some stuff, and then you're actually starting to develop some suggestions or recommendations that could in some way down the road turn into a policy, even financial. It could, you know, you could have a discussion about the financial health, and eventually the supervisors say we need to raise or lower fees or whatever it might be. You know, so you could take that information and try to develop a policy out of it, but it's not, the policy isn't being created, you know, in the FOAB itself. So, you know, again, that's why I wanted to try to understand it from a legal perspective, to see where that line is, because we all understand there's a certain reasonableness to it. You know, we don't get on a public conference call number when you and I decide to talk on the phone about an issue, so that anybody that wanted to call in at that time could listen to our conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
But, so that's, I want to be as open and transparent as possible, but at the same time, not slowing down the ability to get things done, you know? And we're all going to have different opinions about what that means, but I feel like I've stuck to my principles on it, and so.
Did we vote on that?
No.
Okay.
Before we do, though, I just was going to mention to the audience that we're trying to have a serious conversation here. Okay? And so you continuing to talk and laugh while we're talking is not respectful. I didn't laugh and talk while you were talking earlier. So mutual respect is something that we ask. So please abide by that same respect. And with that, motion and second. Any discussion? All right, let's vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
All right, that gets us to the end of our agenda, except for city manager's report and city council comments. However, we did have a workshop, which we did not complete. And so I think one of the options that we said when we recessed at 6:30 was that we could continue that discussion. Would that be something that the council would want to come back from at this time?
What I'd like to do, I think that's a good idea. What I'd like to do is to do the council comment, because I know some people are waiting to listen to the presentation and get that over with, and then I'd be happy to stay and reconvene for us, till we get tired, or till 10:30, whatever, and get the rest of that thing done.
All right, so we'll continue on with the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I was going to comment on the recessed workshop that you had, but also share that the staff also was contemplating requesting that the council hold a workshop in the not-too-distant future to deal with a broader policy conversation related to affordable housing. So if you found that this process was one that was useful, then we certainly think that there's at least one other subject matter, who knows, into the future that might lend itself to the same type of environment. But you'll be hearing from us about a conversation later about affordable housing. And that's all I have for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. All right, city council comments. I can't remember where I started. Is it with you? All right.
Goes by alphabet. It's always me first. I wouldn't mind at some point if we switched that around too, and I could go last. It's great to be first, but it's great to be last. Anyhow, with your forbearance, I can do this on the PowerPoint, and you guys have the hard copy that you can go along with.
How much time did we have to go over this? It's our 2-minute, or
Council comments are 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
And obviously discretionary as to what the council wants to do.
This is the proposal that basically it's
Just get the mic so that those who might be watching.
I hope that didn't go against my 5 minutes.
All right, go.
Okay. Next. So this is the guide to locum summary. This proposal offers an innovative way of combining proven approaches to animal care services so that Lake Forest can develop a world-class system that provides excellent service and humane care at a cost less than the city currently pays for bad service and inhumane care. In addition, most of the money spent will stay in the city, and it will provide opportunities for more citizen involvement while requiring a minimal capital investment. Whoa, next one. Situation, you know, next one. Opportunity, you know, next one. This is how it basically would work. Animal control would go around, pick up the animals. They would come into a local vet, and I've already have local vets already lined up. Or they would come in straight from the home in owner surrenders. The local vets would treat them and then send them out to the adoption center, or as necessary to the pet rescue people, or as necessary to pet stores. So that's the basic flow. Next slide. A shelter with no shelter. How about that? So owner surrenders come via vet referrals. Field services picks up the strays. Vets look, chip, examine, vaccinate, treat. They all go in here or flow through that system. Next slide. Principles and values, I'll skip that in the interest of time. Advantages, better service. Trips to recover your pet take minutes, not hours. Advice and support, the help desk is available locally to assist in keeping your pet in your home, thus reducing admissions. Important services, microchipping, spay and neutering available locally and less expensive. Better care. Animals come directly to vets instead of going to shelter, where disease is more prevalent and behavioral disorders more likely. As a result, pets are easier to adopt and less costly to care for. Animals housed in modern conditions or in foster homes, less stress, better health, more adoptable. Next. Animals spend a few minutes in a truck instead of all day. Ratio of volunteers is increased. Better care, more sociable, more adoptable. No more killing for space, killing because they're too young. Better financial picture. Increased revenue for local businesses. $700,000 stays here in the city. Preventive programs lower the at-risk animals, and that means fewer animals in the system, lowering costs, and zero admissions reduces the admissions, lowering costs. Next. Those are the advantages. The program itself, this is an analysis of the dogs. It's a detailed analysis of what are the characteristics of the dogs who come into the system. Next. Dogs, cats, birds, and others. It's a detailed, this is how they come in, and this is how they go out. I won't go into that now, again, in the interest of time. This is the population by breeds. Next one, by cats by breeds, others by the types they are. In addition to that, in addition to the caring for those animals, these are the services provided by Orange County, the field services. This is an average of 6 actions per day. Next. Next. Basically, this is field services. Field services involves basically admitting 1 or 2 animals per day, mostly dogs and cats, but 30% of the time, nobody gets admitted at all. Picking up 1 dead animal, actually it's a little less than 1 a day. Looking for 2 or 3 stray animals based on reports from residents, and conducting 3 or 4 investigations per day. That's the average day of an animal control officer, only dealing with Lake Forest. This program was sculpted only for Lake Forest and only fits our population. May not work anywhere else. Next one. On-site services are coordinating the field services, operating the help desk to keep pets in the homes, operating the retail store, adoption activities, education, coordinating programs, coordinating volunteers. Next. This is actually day by day what comes in Lake Forest and 24 to Orange County of who's coming in every day. Dogs, cats, others dead. Next one. Dogs, cats, others. Next one. Dogs and cats. Just to show you what the flows, because these are the flows that the analysis is based on. Next one. Capacity. This is a much more important slide. This shows if we locate here in Lake Forest, this is what ends up getting filled. This is the capacity that we have. What that means is on any day, on no day, in all 24, were there more than 5 dogs in a kennel, maximum. On no day was there more than 11 cats, but on most days there are only about 2. So in fact, you can see, generally speaking, there are about 4 animals in a cage or a kennel. or less. And the most animals ever in a kennel for Lake Forest is, I guess, 9. On 2 days, there are 9. So we actually have a really low load in terms of capacity.
So your buzzer went off, but we gave someone a minute before, or a sentence, rather.
That's Mayor's prerogative, Mr. Mayor.
So, go ahead.
Mr. Nick is prepared to give...
Who's got my 5 minutes, Mr. Mayor?
No, I think you guys need to switch then. Go ahead.
Next. Next. Oh, that's just for cats. Next. There are whole times when cats never even come in. Others, next. Others, next. Capacity analysis, next. Pick up by says. This is just to show you that literally everything you can think of is in the analysis. Next. Specialized services. This is the specialized services provided by vets. Next. Next. These are now the breakdowns by field services, by medical services. Next. Next. I want to get to the budget. Next. 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 Okay. This is the budget. Based on all of that analysis, based on, 30 pages prior to this, this is the operating budget at a glance. Field services, the total expenses in this system is $630,000. Revenue is $703,000. Actually makes a profit. In fact, the studies I've done in the past have shown that if Mission Viejo charged the same fees as we charge, they would make a profit. This analysis replicates that. If we would make a profit. Next. Worst case scenario.
And remind me of the fees, real quick. I have
$100 for a full dog.
What about neutered?
Neutered, I think it's 25 or 27 or something like that.
And that's what...
But Mission Viejo is about half of us. So they operate at a deficit. Mission Viejo operates at a deficit. But if they charged our fees, they wouldn't. And my analysis says if we charge our fees, we wouldn't.
Well, we got Randy Thomas who lives in our city.
Yeah. This is a worst case scenario, taking the budget and taking, on a bad day, on the worst case scenario, the general fund would be down $267,000. It's a worst case scenario. Best case scenario, we're making a profit. Next one. Okay, next one. Next one, next couple. These are just notes to the budgets. Startup costs. In addition to operating expenses, which basically work out, there's a startup cost of $152,000. There's a startup cost. Startup cost to do it ourselves, $152,000. To stay with the county, $900,000. So there's a savings of over $500,000 or $600,000 for that. Next one. Transition costs. There are transition costs of $120,000, but those probably, because of during the transition you get an increase in licensing and a decrease in admissions, those costs probably earn themselves out. Next slide. Okay, and then that's the timetable. So at that point, let me stop and basically say this. Enough data here and enough indications that Lake Forest could run our own operation and break even without having to buy into the county. So that what I'd like to do is, rather than you taking my word for it, to take the data now, turn it back to the staff, and have the staff go through this and come back to us and say, yeah, no, this is wrong, he didn't account for this, or, yeah, the guy is right, we could do it.
So I think, Mr. City Attorney.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council, just one quick comment. It's a lot of information with temptation to ask questions and discuss. Just remember, this is a request for consensus. So if we could limit the discussion to consensus to bring this back at a future.
All right, I provide the consensus. I provide the second chair.
I think this is very tempting. So, yeah, you've got it.
And again, as the consensus is to give it to the staff now, and then have the staff come back to us in 2 weeks and do a report card on me. Wouldn't that be fun? Normally I'm doing the report cards on the staff. This will be the staff doing a report card on me.
Okay, just So watch me on the Brown Act part. So we've already discussed this, but earlier tonight we talked about putting stuff on the agenda and trying to give timetables, and we said we'd talk to the staff about how long it would take. Would you need 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months? So I think that would be an important question for the staff. It wasn't part of the consensus, so I'll let one of you do it if you so desire.
Mr. Mayor, as the council, I guess I would suggest that 2 weeks is a bit quick for the staff to validate this. If in fact the county is moving and wanting each of the cities to act prior to their April timeframe, we're talking about March. It might be more appropriate to bring both those items at the same time so you can deal with it all at once. Look at what the county's proposal is, look at what this proposal is, give the staff some direction as to where you'd like to go with it. But I think 2 weeks would be a bit aggressive for us to validate what we've seen here tonight, because I think it would take a variety of things for us to do in order to do that. It might seem a little bit uncomfortable to be challenging a council member in this fashion. So as long as everyone understands that's what we'd be doing, if necessary, public criticism being what it is, if you take it that way, I suppose, but it's constructive. But I think 2 weeks would be a bit aggressive.
Mr. City Manager, isn't it the budget workshop's coming up too?
The budget workshop actually is slated for your next meeting, but I think at this juncture, the mid-year as it relates to, I should have corrected myself, it's the mid-year budget review in 2 weeks. The workshop is after that. So budgetarily you can deal with it quite some time, but we may need to, I think, in no event consider this at least simultaneously with what you'd be getting from the county, because you'll be, unless you don't want their proposal, you'd have to tell me that. Otherwise, they intend to send it.
If I may, Mr. Danek, I think this is a little more time sensitive, given that we are at this point. If this were sometime last year, it wouldn't be as time sensitive, but given that this is January already, or February already, what am I saying? I'm concerned about the timing. There's no way you can perhaps reprioritize a couple of things, put them a little further on the back burner and bring this forward and deal, so we can deal with it effectively 2 weeks from tonight. And given that this is Carlos' first opportunity to get back at Dr. Gardner, I know he's going to work day and night to get back at him. So maybe, in fact, I think you're not going home anymore for the next 2 weeks. I think he's going to come through for us.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm going to stick with what I said. I just think 2 weeks is way too quick for the staff to do a thorough job and do it honestly. I would feel uncomfortable with that, Councilmember Nick. So my recommendation stands to you. Obviously, we'll do whatever the council suggests and tells us that it wants to do.
No, if you're the forest general on the ground. So if you say it'll be 4 weeks, it'll be 4 weeks.
Or March, I think is. I don't know if you're saying 4 or 6, but March could be either.
There's 2 meetings in March. I think clearly, based on what the council's conversation is, I think it'd be incredibly important that you consider this, get our report on it, at least in no event later than when you're going to be considering the county's contract. You wouldn't take action on the county and this secondarily. So at minimum, they're simultaneous. This is whether or not you want to have 2 conversations related to this issue or 1 and dispense with it at that juncture. But I wouldn't want to necessarily commit unless you tell me, put it on the first meeting in March, second meeting in March. It kind of depends on when we get it from the county. As Deborah was saying earlier, we anticipate their desire to have the city's act in March, but I would also say if they're later than that for some reason, I'd still bring this in March if that would be the issue, because I do think that's fair.
And I know staff has vacations and conferences coming up, so I think, we all want it to be right.
Yeah, no, I don't want it to rush because it's a big investment for staff resources. It should be right. And however long it takes you to get it right, sooner is better, but however long it takes to get it right.
Okay. So, just making sure we got left, we got right. So, Mr. Robinson, council comments?
I've had a fair number of fire authority meetings. Most of it's been closed session lately, but just been going to quite a few of them.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Attended a TCA workshop emergency meeting today on consultant that TCA hired to get a snapshot of the community leaders of South Orange County on the completion of the 241, and she came back in after a 2.5-hour meeting, basically told us that there was no true way to get consensus between the environmentalists and city leaders, and so at this time there's no consensus on the 241 yet. So and I would like to say that for you that are out there, I do hear you, and I have 2 cats and 2 dogs at home, and I love them dearly, and I think it's important that we value our animals, and I don't think it's a lack of concern about the animal welfare. I think it was just a hope that maybe the next animal shelter would be better than what the previous was, but obviously this is an intriguing opportunity, so I think that it's the hope, and I know it's the passion of Dr. Gardner, but I know it's the passion of me and my family that every animal life is important. So don't take it that we don't like animals. And so I thank you for your patience tonight, and have a great rest of the week. Nothing further.
So I guess I'm up. Even though one person may have somewhere on some blog somewhere mentioned that our city clerk's minutes are, I don't even know what the word was, but I want to publicly say that the city clerk does a fine job, and we're lucky to have her. All right, so 2 weeks ago, I was quite busy. I attended a Garden of Innocence that actually had a newspaper article in the Orange County Register, which was a very, very good eulogy, I guess is the best way to say it, for 2 babies. Hosted here in Lake Forest, and even Kay Warren was the person who spoke and did the eulogy. Attended Snow Day with my daughter. Also spent a full day in Sacramento for the League of Cities. This last week, I attended a watershed. I think it's the Upper Newport Bay. I'm on 2 of them, so I think it's the Upper Newport Bay watershed. And attended the grand opening of a business here last Friday. I think that's all I had. So,
Mr. Mayor, before can I just divulge that I did too attend my tax and rev committee at the California League of Cities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I just wanted to say I gave that an earful to the State Water Resources Control Board for putting the state into our local affairs, trying to manage the drought. So local control is what we need. All right, so I think we can adjourn the city council meeting.